Blue was the color of her eyes, right? It's
Hey, man,
blue. It's blue day, right?
it's Blue Note, man.
Blue.
Hey,
Whiskey Tango Charlie, welcome to another episode. We're going to venture into the state of Tennessee where we're going to talk about a whiskey and maybe a bourbon
yep, yep,
blended,
yep. Blue
crafted.
Note, yep. Crafted in Memphis, Tennessee. They're out of Memphis, the oldest legal distillery in Memphis that opened in 2013-ish thing, and yeah, so we have a whiskey. The whiskey being sourced from undisclosed things out of Kentucky, and then we have a straight bourbon whiskey, which is the Blue Note Crossroads, which is another one that we got coming up. It's an MGP sourced MGP thing.
So looking at the whiskey,
Yep.
the reason it's a whiskey is because obviously it's not 4 year, Charles.
Right. No age statement on the bottle, and so 3 to 4 years is what I understand. Doing a little research on this is, and it's a rye. It's a rye thing. It's not. I guess you could call this high rye because it's a 20, 21, 20-something%.
About 24, I think. I think it is
Yeah, something
24.
like that.
And this is a higher, like
That would be a
35 or
30,
36.
35, 36% range in the rye category. So
MGP.
yeah. So anyway, you poured these up, and I sort of was just sneaking a little bit of a smell on. I had to do a comparison there. This one, the Blue Note Juke Joint Whiskey. This is the unfiltered, and this is a 93 proof. And so this was, to me, I think, from an unfiltered characteristic. You remember our conversation we had? I had a great conversation with Brandon up at Old Raleigh, right? And he was kind of walking us through, talking to us about the reason, where he's at with proofing at 96 being unfiltered. So 93 is a good point being below that, so you don't have to use the cold filtration to worry about cloudiness and all that. But I can tell you, I picked this glass up after you poured it, Troy. Beautiful, beautiful nose on this, real sweet. And I wouldn't have picked up probably the rye in it.
I have no rye pickup on, and I'm the rye guy.
Yeah. And I really,
So 24%, right, rye?
I get a lot of just what I would consider really your bourbon-ish stuffs, the caramels, the vanillas, and stuff like that. A lot of sweetness.
Oh.
But what I really pick up is,
So-
from my nose, I get a really strong vanilla, and then I get some hint of maple, some maple syrup in that. So it's kind of a cool thing.
So I don't get any of that, obviously.
Okay.
But I was caught up on the legs. Did you see how thick the legs are? So this thing's going to be sweet.
Yeah.
All those oils.
Yeah.
I got to taste it because I'm not getting the scent. It's funny, Charles, because as I put it up to my mouth, I started to pick up some scents off that.
So,
like as I was breathing it. Hang on.
it's one of those things. It's really is kind of interesting. It's one of those things where what hit the palate is not what I was expecting. This particular one, it's one of those unique ones where I was expecting to taste something different, about the same as I was smelling, and it went in a different direction. This one, what I really got is a nice cinnamony thing, just cool.
So it's all the way across the palate, both sides of the tongue, not all the way to the back, about mid palate. And it is spicy. I don't quite have that cinnamon, but I have a spicy taste of that. And I'm picking up now the vanilla notes on the nose where I wasn't picking it up there at the beginning. I'm gonna get a third sip of this.
It really is something how that just kind of sets there in a nice way across, like you described it, across the entire palate, midways. And the second sip for me came, first sip, second sip. The second sip really came more forward. It kind of moved from back and sort of migrated a little more forward on the palate. But
So Charles, I made a mistake here when I poured.
yeah.
All right, let me tell you my mistake. We have nothing to cleanse our palate with before we go to the next one. So you talk about the next bottle,
All right.
and I'll get us something to cleanse with.
All right, here we go. The Bluenote Crossroads, as we're talking about this is a sourced one. This is also finished with, you got my Yeti.
It's the first time there's ever been water in that Yeti, by the way.
Yeah. This one's finished with the toasted French oak barrel. So they kind of got it started with some MGP, I guess, brought those barrels in and then migrated over to that French oak and gave it a little finish in there too. So, yeah.
Much different than the first one, right? Now clean my sensory a little bit. Yeah, way different than the first one. So the first one, I wasn't getting any sense on the first nose of it. I had to have a couple sips of it before I actually was picking up anything. On this one, yeah, I'm getting the vanillas.
It's really interesting that, and it must be the French oak finishing to that.
Are you getting an oak? Because I'm not getting an oak.
I get a, on the nose, I get almost a buttery, I'm getting almost a buttery smell. And I'm going to attribute that to the French oak, I guess.
I'm gonna go get a COVID test when this show's over because I'm not getting that, right?
And I get some vanilla with that.
All right, so now I have my mouth open as I'm smelling, right? And I'm getting probably that oak stave that they've used. My nose is just off today, Charles. I don't know what's going on. But my palate is not, because that is delish.
That is delish. You know, you would kind of like, hey man, that's wow. I got to get some descriptors going on here. I got to get another sip.
So
wow.
This is further back on my tongue.
Yeah.
Right. Again, same as the first one, both sides, but all the way across, and now it's creeping towards the front.
So this is interesting. The 100 proof doesn't really come across as that. This is the 100.
That's 100 proof.
That's supposed to be 100.
I did not notice that when we started.
I get more flavor profile on it, but I don't know that I'm getting the full 100. Now it is settling back in there a little bit more with but wow.
So it snuck up. It has not made it to the tip of my tongue yet, but it has snuck up on that. And I'm getting the caramels, the vanillas, the typical taste that you get with any bourbons or whiskeys, but I'm not getting anything from the French oak stave that they've used.
If anything, it's used. My guess is the French oak is really just kind of softened that finish just a little bit from just coming from a regular barrel. I think it gets a softer finish.
This is an everyday sipper for me. I can actually, it's got the ryes in it. It's a high rye.
35, 36% in that mash bill. So I figured that this would probably be your favorite between the two.
Right, and it is. It is delicious in a number of different ways, but there's a descriptor that I've got to find in the taste of this, Charles, that I cannot find.
Yeah. Listen, I think these were 40 or something price point.
Yeah.
I would say
Mid $40 to $50.
I don't, yeah, something like that. I'll just say these are I think, two great bottles. If you see these, probably worth a try, because again, we talk about this a lot with our tasting events and our stuff that we put out. Our palates are different from your palates and everything. So I'm enjoying this. I'm glad we picked these up, and they're going on the shelf with our stuff. But these would be two pours, two bottles you want to kind of grab. Not a bad price point, I don't think. I think the price paid is worth what we paid there.
So obviously I'm going to suggest this, but let me apologize to everyone watching. You know, sometimes we get those bottles that, you know, we can't really find those smells and those tastes on it. Today was that day for me. I was real excited about it because of the rise, but I'm going to tell you, you've tasted a bourbon, you've tasted a whiskey. More importantly, you found something that you enjoy. You don't know why it is that you enjoy it, but I'm going to tell you, I enjoy this particular bottle over this particular bottle. Both of them are great bourbons and whiskeys. I would highly suggest that you pick them up. And Charles, I can't wait to go through Memphis and visit this distillery.
There's another one to check, right, in Memphis.
Cheers.
Hey, folks. Cheers.